Okay. So I'm a Gamey. So what's the new game today?
The new game is called Galaxy Fighters. It's a 2 to 4 player cooperative survival strategy game based on arcade shooters like Galaga, Ikaruga, Space Invaders, and similar bullet hell games.
Oh, classic space games.
Yeah, classic space games. And the idea is the players are defending Galaxy City from an invading horde of exovan alien tiles, and each player is responsible for their own district of Galaxy City. So when I'm designing it, I'm like trying to get that arcade experience into an analog board game vibe for the players, and the approach I wanted to take was pressurizing the players with a bunch of aliens that slowly spread out, or quickly depending on the tile, spread out towards the players in their districts. So every player turn, there's 4 phases. There's a spawn phase where the player draws a spawn card and then places the tiles on the board in relation to where they're sitting at the table. Then there's a roll phase where they roll the dice, and then they have their commands that they eventually give to their ship. And then the third phase is the command phase, when they take all the commands they have and move the ship around and fire at the aliens on the board. And finally is the advanced phase, where the aliens that are facing your district of Galaxy advance on the player. So you start on zone 1, you go to zone 8, left to right, and you start seeing any of the aliens that are facing you go. And whenever you have a stack of aliens, they frenzy. That means that all the aliens are moving in their relation, or the directions that they're pointing you as you pull them off. So this one is aiming down. This one's aiming down. This one happens to be aiming back. And this is going. So they frenzy and they go in all the different directions. This is a way for the aliens to surprise the other players, so it keeps everybody on their toes throughout the game, even if it's not their turn.
Now your ship could only move in one direction going forward or back, or could turn?
The ships can move anywhere in their atmosphere, horizontally or vertically. This particular ship has a drone that follows it, so the drone always is in the last space the player was in. So then, once the player's done and the aliens move, the next player goes and the loop continues. Now when the aliens reach the end of the map, they invade the specific district that they're in. You place one. The players lose if 2 districts are invaded, but the players win if they survive 20 turns.
Now if one district is gone, is that player eliminated?
No, I don't. I personally don't believe in eliminating a player from play as a game design idea. So when all the players win together and lose together. So if there's 2 districts that are invaded, game done. But if everybody survives 20, we all win. There's also in the game, I don't have it for the demo, but there's a shipyard. So if an alien hits a player's ship, it blows up. You're not out of the game. You just get a new ship from the shipyard, place it down.
It's sort of like a video game. You have like 3 lives.
Yeah, 3 lives, exactly. But if you can't, if there's no lives left, game's over. So if you can't pull and replace a ship, everybody's out. There's not enough.
So everyone loses at once.
Everybody loses at once, yeah. Because you need to have everybody to help defend Galaxy City.
Now when you place the aliens, is that placed at the beginning of the game, or when you destroy the card?
Every player turn starts with the spawn. So there's aliens appearing every player turn, every turn. It fills up the board. Now you're seeing the board. Your predecessors have been playing,
right.
So this is the product of what they've been doing. So they've cleared out a lot of the board, and there's still some remnants left to deal with.
Yeah. Now let's say when I draw a card,
yes.
So all the aliens are facing in the direction towards me.
Right.
Or some of them are different.
Right. So you'd the card orientation. This is towards your district, but sometimes yes, the orientation of them facing whatever the directions the tiles say. Some are. Have them all facing down towards the player, and some are facing in multiple directions. Yeah, it depends on the card.
Now the stacks are a result of every player going, and the aliens happen to be stacked on that. So they can be facing different directions
inside the stack, and that's part of the trickiness of the aliens, where it's like, okay, so you're trying to memorize where they're going, but then once they start to stack up, you lose track of what's there, so you have to like plan ahead as a group. So it's encouraged to talk over comms and like figure out tactics and stuff.
And what was the win condition for the?
Oh, survival is the win condition. Yeah. So what happens is when you set up the game, you have 20 spawn cards that get shuffled in randomly, and then when that stack is done, you survive. Now I like to give players a little bit of onus for their satisfaction at the end of the game. So the regular game rules is like you survive is great, but I have like a little addendum. It's like, hey, do you want to survive the attack or do you want to save the galaxy? So if everybody decides they want to save the galaxy, they have to clear the board without losing.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so then but again, I give the option to the player. I think that's a great thing to like have a little bit of flexibility in the rules. So included in the rules is, included in the rules are little numerical changes that you can make it harder and easier depending on your play style.
Now, are there any expansions to this game?
We're going to Kickstarter this in March, so I'm building out the core experience, but I do have some expansion ideas in mind, like power-ups that drop down from when you shoot an alien. They come out, so things like that, and motherships. So I want to save that for like next time while I'm building it out. I do work with a lot of video game developers, and part of that is patching their games. So I find like if video game developers can patch games, so can I. So what I like to do a lot of times is do some rules clarifications and add new rules to my website. So you'll always be able to like see the most updated PDF on my website. And currently I'm working on a one-player mode for this, so that it's like a singular experience that is more in line with the traditional arcade video game. Right, yeah.
And I can see that easily adaptable.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the 2 to 4 player version of this is there's always 4 ships in play. Just
you're controlling 2.
You're controlling 2, right? Yeah. So that's the thrust of this game. And for me, the idea of pressurizing the players by adding aliens every round is a great reference to the source material video games. So if you're feeling pressurized and a little panicked, the game is doing its job. You know.
Now, does each different ship have different powers?
Yes. All the game roles are asymmetrical. So some ships have strengths and weaknesses. I try to build it out so that there's direct and indirect assistance you can give other players. Some ships can directly help you by placing things in your atmospheres, and some have attack forms that can reach across the board into your atmosphere from the angles. So I have it set up so that players can figure it out for themselves. Like I try not to like talk a lot about tactics when you're playing. Like
let them discover it.
Let them discover it, you know. And like a lot of stuff that it gets discovered, I didn't even think of, and that's a wonderful part of designing board games.
Right. You have the players come up with things they love.
Yeah. And people love the stacking element, the evocative nature of coming from the video game idea, I think can attract people, and I hope it does for Galaxy Fighters. I have a design background, so it's very important to me to have like a good design quality to it. So I made the aliens be cyan, magenta, yellow, and the players are RGB, so that there's like color differentiation, so they can see when they're playing, they have that separation of roles. So I like that, and it has this kind of cool 80s synthwave, like bringing back some nostalgia.
I mean, from a quick look at it, it reminds me of Space Invaders, the way they're coming down.
Right.
But when they split off, it reminds me of Galaga.
Right. That's for me, Galaga's my most favorite classic shooter. That's the one I grew up playing a lot more than even Space Invaders. And I love the entry of the aliens. They would come in and some would peel off and just disappear. And I wanted to have that vibe. And for me, that peeling off just means it's going to other players. So that's the idea. And again, I love the cooperative nature, and I enjoy games like Pandemic that everybody's playing against the board. And Pandemic really does, the board really plays well against the players, and I hope that people feel the same way about Galaxy Fighters.
Now, would you ever have like a special ability where, like I know in the video games, sometimes you get like a double ship, so you can like.
Well, actually, I'm doing Kickstarter in March. I do have a VIP follower for the Kickstarter, and if you decide to be a VIP follower, you would get a VIP ship, and the VIP ship happens to be one of the alien tiles that the story goes, it decides that its people is too militaristic and they want to help the humans defend. So their special power is convincing the other alien tiles to join it so it becomes a wider ship. So that's the VIP ship power. So that's the idea behind like calling back to that Galaga specific mechanic.
Now, what's the entry point for the game for a price wise?
Oh, price point. We're thinking 60 for retail, but the Kickstarter will be 45.
Oh. Yeah. Very good. And this comes out in March?
Well, we're doing the Kickstarter in March. Right. With production cycles being what they are, it'll most likely be at 26.
Right.
Yeah, 2026.
Name of the game is Galaxy Fighters. If you love the old style video games, give it a shot. Kickstarter comes out in March. Some gaming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting with you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.